Good morning, friends, and welcome to Take Two for this Wednesday, December the 5th, 2018. It's hump day. I hope you're having a great midweek. First things first, I'd like to wish a very, very happy, are you ready? Golden 50th wedding anniversary to our dear friends Ron and Arloa Evans. Can you believe it? 50 years. Many blessings on this day, you guys, and many, many more. Well, today I'd like to talk to you about something that has been on my heart, and that is there's good in there somewhere. Now, let me share a story with you that I recently had a conversation with a nurse. Actually, she's a nurse with who deals with people at the end of their lives. She's a hospice nurse. And she told me the most remarkable story and blew my mind. She's telling me about this gentleman who was a patient of hers, and he was coming towards the end of his life. He was in the hospital bed, and when he first arrived into the facility where she was taking care of him, he was basically a charity case, and he was the most miserable, angry man you ever want to know. He just was angry. He was yelling and swearing at the nurses and doing all sorts of things. He was disagreeing with every doctor who walked in the room. He was impossible. He was absolutely and utterly impossible. But she just had such a heart of compassion for him, thinking to herself, my goodness, this can't be right. He can't have been this way his entire life. There's got to be something that caused him to behave this way. So she started befriending this gentleman in the bed. Now imagine, he was only maybe in his 50s, but he looks like he had lived a very rugged and difficult and challenging life. So she just little by little just kind of probed him, and after a while, because he was there for several weeks, he started to soften just a little bit. And before you know it, he actually opened up to my nurse friend and started sharing his story with her. Well, it turns out that his parents were deceased. He was alone in the world. He'd never been married, although he came close once or twice, but he never got married because he was just so difficult and miserable to live with. And it just appeared that everybody around him that he was around, he would just sabotage any kind of friendship or relationship until eventually they just had to dismiss him out of their lives. He was a very angry man. Well, apparently what happened was he lost his parents as a youngster and bounced from foster home to foster home. Some of the situations were not very good, till eventually the minute he turned 18 years old, he joined the military and went into the army, I think it was, and did his time there, and then came out, a lost soul, no direction, and he bounced from job to job to job, from relationship to relationship. He got involved with some unscrupulous people. He did some gambling. It was just every vice you could imagine, every bad thing you could imagine a human being could get involved with, this gentleman did. Well, anyway, he ended up becoming very ill, and then he ended up that he was dying in that hospital bed. Well, as she probed more and as she talked to him more, she found out a few things. He finally started to tell her a little more details and a little more truth. See, the story he had been telling for years and years and years to people was that his parents died when he was a child, and that was the reason why he was in foster care all those years. But it turns out that he actually finally confessed that it wasn't just that his parents died, but rather his teenage mother gave birth to him and gave him up for adoption, or wanted to give him up for adoption, but she didn't know how to go about doing that. She was just a simple country girl, and she just didn't know, so she just kind of gave him to family members to take care of, and then just was dismissed out of his life, and he had never seen her again, and now he was an adult. But because he was only in his 50s, he thought to himself, well, then she couldn't be very old. So about 3 years earlier, he had started digging and doing a little bit of research, and he found out that he discovered that his own birth mother lived within a 50-mile radius of where he was, and he found her, and he found her. Well, here's the thing that really was the kicker. He went and met her, and when he did, they became friends with one another. Not really friends, but it was a tolerable situation. And she shared her heart that she didn't know what to do. She thought the best thing to do was to give him away. That's what she thought was the best choice. So all the anger and resentment and bad behavior that followed as a result of it all his life ended up being because of this situation. Well, he decided that with no one knowing about it or anybody at all having anything to do with it and keeping it just to himself, he ended up taking care of her in every way that he could, a long distance, that is, with her being 50 miles away. He would visit her frequently, and she was very, very ill. And he would visit her, and he paid her way. He took her to the doctors. He did many things, and he was with her till her last dying day. And with the exception of the nurse in that hospice, she's the only one who ever knew this story. And she said to herself, I knew it. I just knew it. And he said, what did you know? She said, I knew when I looked at you. I knew, despite all the rough edges and the crustiness, I knew there was some good in there somewhere. Have you ever faced a situation where you have to deal with extremely difficult people? People who are ugly to you, people who are the type of person that when you see them walk into a restaurant, you just know that the server is not going to like them, or when they go to make a purchase at a store, the checkout person is going to just not like that person either. There are people like that. There are people who are angry, people who have bad backgrounds, people who have allowed their personalities to form in such a bad way because of things that they've had happen in their past. But deep down, somehow, some way, there might just be some good down in there somewhere. And if that's the case, I encourage you today, boys and girls, if you're dealing with somebody like that man in that hospital, in that hospice bed, I would encourage you, boys and girls, to find it. Find that good that's in there somewhere, because there is going to be somewhere, somehow, a little bit of good in that person. It's interesting because this hospice nurse said that she stayed with this man in this hospital. He was only 56 years old when he finally took his last breath, and she was sitting next to him when he did. And he said to her, do you think that I could be forgiven for what I've done? And she said, well, do you want to be forgiven for what you've done? He said, I did a lot of really bad things, and I was mean to a lot of people, including you when I first got here, and yet you're so nice to me. She said, because you know why? I found some good in there somewhere. And she said that tears just started falling from his eyes, and she took his hand, and he said, please forgive me. She said, I forgive you. He said, okay, I'm ready now. And he just passed right there. And she said, not everybody is 100% bad. Not everybody like that is necessarily that way. She said, there is good in some people somewhere. You just have to find it. And guess what? That nurse found it. And that man died in peace. And that just made me glad to know. Now, was much of his life a wasted life because of the anger and all the things that he went through? Yes. Yes, I'm sure it was. But in the end, somebody took the time to find the good in that man. Hey, go be a blessing to somebody today, okay? You might end up being the only one who is. And remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jeannie Sigler, JeanneSigler. Click that subscribe button. And also, don't forget, great holiday programming, lots of fun holiday programming going on Ram FM. So please click on WRMZ.org, hit that listen button, and you'll be blessed. Happy Hump Day, everybody. And remember, go find that good in somebody, because you know what? It's there. It's there. You just have to find it. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.